Japanese trucking will blow your mind. Japan, a country that holds a tremendous amount of fascination and a reputation of uniqueness and modern boldness, merge with tradition and order to what would be typically chaotic, prompting many to wonder what it is like in Japan, with almost 92% of its population living in the city. This fact may not be all that unexpected, but it does help to explain why Japan's cities are so crowded. The only roadways are more of an afterthought than the pre-planned grids we're used to in the North America. And millions of people are crammed together like sardiness. However, given that the majority of urban Japanese people don't possess cars, this isn't really a problem. Only 32% of people in Tokyo's 23 wards possesses cars overall. The nation's truck drivers, who make up over 90% of the country's transportation business, are in charge of carrying out the final stage of Japan's supply chain, are worried about these narrow streets and crowded cities. The big four Japanese truck manufacturers, Hino, Isuzu, UD, and Fuso, dominate the market in Japan. Though uncommon, a few European trucks brands including Scania, Volvo, and Mercedes are also sold there. Since most Japanese truckers are locals who don't have to live out of their truck, the vast majority of their vehicles are day cabs. In addition, day cabs are smaller and simpler to maneuver in confined spaces. Similar to several regions of Europe, Japanese infrastructure was first constructed on a human size rather than automobile scale. Although there are many regular-sized roads in Japan, truckers frequently have to travel through narrow alleyways or other congested areas. There are two separate standards for trailer size and weight limit in the country, which has led to two dominant trailer configurations, the semi-trailer and the full trailer. A semi-trailer is a trailer which is partially supported by the cab, not entirely by its own axles, whereas a full trailer can support its own weight. In Japan, both of these trailers types are used, semi-trailers by independent cabs and full trailers by rigid trucks. On expressways where there is more space, semi-trailers are limited in length to 16.5 meters, while rigid trucks with a full trailer on back are limited to 18 meters. Typically, only trucks with 4, 6, or 8 wheels on a rigid chassis are seen on non-expressway roads. A few of these, primarily the longer ones, have two running axles for a closer radius. Rigid trucks are only allowed to travel on these routes if they meet strict size standards, which limit them to 12 meters in length and 2.5 meters in breadth. The expressway may still be used by longer articulated trucks or rigid trucks pulling full trailers, but only in certain locations. Japan is also called as a country of low speed limits, as the highest national speed limit is capped at 80 kilometers per hour or 50 miles per hour. Though most trucks have the ability to go a bit faster, there is less need for high-speed travels as driving distances in the country are not far. One major positive for truck drivers in Japan is the lack of transportation authority, or at least the flavor of authority we're used to in the West. In Japan, most regulations are dealt with remotely through the many cameras and sensors which line Japan's expressways, so drivers don't have to stress about being pulled over. Given that this industry is heavily regulated and subject to regular inspections, there is a general feeling of better trust among Japanese trucking companies. Trucks frequently come with cameras, tachometers, GPS trackers, and other equipment that gather data to improve overall safety. To prevent accidents caused by drunk driving, Japan is so serious about driver safety. Since 2011, breathalyzer tests have been required for all commercial drivers before they start their shift. Commercial trucks in Japan are easily recognized by their distinctive green license plates, which expressway cameras may utilize to recognize vehicles and carry out the weight in motion checks, in which a vehicle's gross weight is automatically determined as it travels down the road. It would not do justice to the trucking industry if I don't mention one of the coolest parts of Japanese trucking: which is these highly decorated trucks known as decotora. This subculture of trucking sees both career truckers and hobbyists alike come together to create some of the most intricate and interesting trucks on earth. This subculture has been heavily inspired by a series of movies released in the 70s and 80s called Torakuyaro or Truck, which showed truck drivers in these really flashy and well-designed rigs. Instantly, a decotora fad swept the country. Later in the 90s, the culture was heavily influenced by Gundam, which are these fictional military robots that leaked into Japanese culture. For all of its ups and downs, tight corners, and precise turns, Japanese trucks, like all global trucks, keep this world running and serve as another reminder that without these dedicated men and women on the road, we'd still be living in huts. On top of providing a lot of jobs, the trucking industry adds a lot to the Japanese economy, which is a huge contribution to the country's gross income. In fact, trucks are responsible for about 84% of the entire revenue of the whole transportation industry. Without transportation, there won't be the travel and tourism industry. People won't have means to reach other places that they desire to see. Japanese trucking industry is a vital factor in every country's development. The social, cultural, political, and economic development of a nation depends on it. In fact, deficient transportation systems are linked to a lower quality of life, so it is not wrong to say that Japanese trucking industry serves as a backbone to the country's well-being and prosperity. Moreover, Japanese commercial transportation firms are turning to women to help overcome the nation's growing shortage of truck drivers. It's a trend many US-based transportation companies would like to kickstart in 2015. As is the case in the United States, Japan's commercial transportation industry has long been dominated by men. However, with the Asian nation's population rapidly aging, Japan faces crippling worker shortages across a variety of critical industries. The shift is forcing everyone to rethink acceptable gender roles in the workplace. The extent of Japan's worker shortage is really quite staggering. Between January 2007 and October 2014, the nation's working age population shrunk by 7%. Atsushi Sieg, a labor economics professor at Keio University, says it's a positive trend. It is a great news. We have wasted a talented female workforce in the past, says Saiki. Many of the women entering the male-dominated trucking industry would agree with that statement. That's all for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more videos and don't forget to hit the subscribe button below.